time now?
I think we're live.
It says to say live. Oh, there it is. 0. The timer started now, and we are live on the PHU Dynasty podcast. Excellent production value here. Episode 66, order 66. By the way,
and you do it live.
Right, just fuck it. We'll do it live. This is episode 66. This is a very fun, and everybody looks forward to this episode every year. Is the Dynabook reveal by our very own James Sifu, who puts in his heart and soul into Dynabook, and he comes up with all kinds of awesome statistics and some data and some different ways to present how our league is laid out. So we're always looking forward to that. And this is kind of like the true official power rankings, if you will. By Dynabook, so basically just James, but yeah, but we get basically James's power rankings.
But I talk to a lot of people over the time, and there's feedback in the chat with stuff. So it's a mix of art and science, and you all kind of contribute in a way, just individual conversations with other people, and obviously Sean's incendiary comments about Tyler Conklin
there'll be plenty of discussion for that later on. I'll give you guys, that's my tease for the episode, is that there will be a lot more Tyler Conklin content that needs to happen.
Yeah,
it's just man, I got nothing yet, so I'll save my 2 cents for later.
It's June. We're not talking about important players yet. We're talking about the shitty guys in June.
Speaking of shitty guys, we're going to start with who's that crappy wide receiver. So we did the name that player back last offseason. I think we'll bring it back for this one. So this is going to be I think a pretty tough one. So I trust you guys, because I know James has said this name at some point within the last 5 years. So that's something that we probably can't say for some guys. And then Sean, he played for one of your teams. So let's start here. So here's your initial clues. Just one of your teams, like your Philadelphia teams, we'll put it that way. So here's your initial clues. So this player was active from 2010 to 2015 and never played after 2015 again. And he was most known for his time with a team in the AFC West and has a very unique name. So with that information, I'll let you decide if you want to give a guess or not. And if we got nothing, then we'll go to the next set of clues.
Do we have unlimited guesses, or are we like?
Let's give you 2 guesses in this pool, and then we'll give you 2 more in the next one.
Okay, I could take a hero guess now. I think.
This is what It's what we're here for.
Legadou Nane.
It is not Legadou Nane. But excellent guess, though.
Yeah,
excellent guess. He started on the Chargers, I think.
At some point, he definitely played for the Chargers. He was on one of my teams at the time.
I don't think he was ever on the Eagles.
Darius Hayward Bay. I feel like that's 2.
That is also not the answer.
No. Yeah, I feel like he was even earlier in 07, 08, maybe.
Yeah, I think he was in the 08 draft, I want to say. You got one more guess in this clue set. Or you could always pass to the next clue set.
It's like a shitty Chiefs receiver.
There's just so many bad receivers from back in that time frame.
I mean, this is a throwaway guess, but I'll just say Dwayne Bowe. I don't think it's Dwayne Bowe.
Oh, it wasn't shitty.
I feel like he was definitely longer than 5 years, wasn't he?
I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it felt like Scavelli named his team after him for 20 years.
No, you're right. But the only reason I said it was because it was in this time period. Sean's right. Dwayne Bowe probably played longer, and I wouldn't classify him as a shitty receiver because he was actually good in stretches.
You
got nothing?
I got shit.
All right, we're going to the next clue set here. His career receiving yards were 424.
Whoa.
Played at Fresno State and was 6'3", 211. So I really don't know if this helps that much, I'll be honest, but the next set of clues, there's a third set of clues that really should help.
424. Oh my god.
It's not good. I mean, we're talking Jeff Janis bad there.
That is less than Tyler Conklin will have this year.
If he played on one of Sean's, so you're saying he played on the Eagles at some point?
He did play on the Eagles for one season. And I honestly don't even know if he had a catch.
Did he play that?
I'm going to hold on. I'll pull it back up again just because I know he played for the team as probably a special teams guy.
Yeah, Fresno State.
Let me pull up this one more time. He had 3 targets and 1 reception for 4 yards on the Eagles.
Oh, of course, that narrows it down.
It really helps. It really helps a lot. His best season was 13 catches for 262. It was his rookie year.
Okay.
And kind of just never did anything after that, I guess. So that was 2010.
Rookie year, 2010. Oof.
Then he left that team, went to another team, and then played at the initial team for 3 more years afterwards. So it was a 1-1.
Nothing to offer you.
Nothing to offer. James, any guesses?
No, I'm sorry.
All right, next set of clues. The final set of clues.
Yeah. Okay.
So he played for the Chargers and had short stints with the Panthers and Eagles. Both of those stints were 1 season. His name comes from the Nigerian origin, and he was number 16 when he played for the Chargers for 2 of the seasons.
It's not like a Dunane.
It is not Legadou Nane, but it's in the same ballpark. We'll put it that way. I didn't want to give it away early.
Yeah.
His name truly is one of the best of all time. And if you guys still are struggling, I'll give you the initials.
Yeah, I'll probably need them.
All right, we'll take the initials. It's S.A.
S.A. Seji Arotutu.
That is it. James got it. Seji Ajirotutu.
Holy shit! I remember.
Oh, okay.
I remember him.
That is him.
Holy fuck.
Boy, was he not relevant.
I definitely had him. I definitely had him on a team at some point, though, for sure.
I kind of want to look up his game log. Be considered shitty.
Sean, that's a great point, and I kind of want to look up his game log. Oh, he had 1 game. Okay, so week 3 of 2010, he had 4 catches for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Oh, I definitely
probably like a waiver wire darling that week
for sure.
And then next week he didn't even play. The week after that, he had 1 for 16 and 2 for 44, and never did anything else the rest of the season. So basically, his whole career was in 1 week.
Unbelievable.
Oh man! So that's your name that crappy wide receiver. There'll be plenty more, I'm sure, over future podcasts. So anywho, it's the Dynabook reveal time, and it is also pot stirring hour. It is time. So James, I'll let you take it away here with this first slide. This was one of your first slides that you sent over. So maybe show me or let the viewers know what we're looking at here.
Yeah, sure. So, last year I kind of unveiled the sort of like classifying system I would use on all the players, right? Tagging players with either like franchise cornerstone, quality starter, reliable contributor, stuff like that, or like developmental prospect. And there's different points assigned to each one of those things. So it's like 10 points for franchise cornerstone, 7.5 for quality starter. But then within those, obviously there's going to be differentiation in between. Off the top of my head, bless you, sir. Off the top of my head, like Travis Etienne, I had this as a franchise cornerstone, but I don't give him what I call like a badge, right? Like he doesn't he's like on the first level of that designation, where a player like a Jamar Chase gets the maxed out number. And the thinking there is too, it's a player, it's like doing this is trying to look at things through a redraft lens with a little bit of like dynasty spice, because again, people can always make trades, and I don't want to be too pigeonholed into like, oh, this team doesn't have running backs or this and that. Like it's a true amalgamation of like the value that's on your team, but in players, not picks. That's why the elk are at the bottom, because their players aren't as strong. But on other dynasty websites, the elk get propped way far up because they have I think like 9 of the first 20 picks or something in the next draft, so that increases the value. But anyways, but then obviously like I go through it and I optimize it based on like your starting lineup, right? And so what you're looking there in that ranking is that's like the starter score, and then the bench obviously is all your remaining players, and then the grand total. So like a few interesting things I think there is, I mean, Eric, with you there, the Armadillos, you have the highest bench score and the second highest number overall, which is very good. But on the starter thing, as you see, like I do have the Plague and Lionheads a little bit higher still in their with their starters. Plague, obviously, they have pretty good starters. The bench is very thin, and you kind of see that they have the worst bench, but their starter score is pretty good. Trying to think what other things kind of highlight. Even myself here, the Lambs, I'm down here in seventh, kind of like a middle of the pack team. That is what I see after the moves that I had made. But then if you kind of skip over to the right there with the different positional tiers, with kicker and defense, just real quick, get that out of the way. Everyone starts with like what's called like the mix and match tier, which is like a 5-point thing, and you'll see like a couple totals higher. The Muskrats get a 6 for defense because the Cowboys have literally been the number 1 defense like 3 years in a row in fantasy points wise. So I just feel like that's like that's an advantage he has over the rest of the league. That's even more than other stuff, And then kicker, I think Eric, you have Jake Elliott, obviously the Lionhead.
Does Scavelli get an extra half a point for having 8 defenses?
Yeah, well, and I think he has like really good defenses and a good kicker, and he has like several good kickers. So it's like, all right, well, we'll give him some extra points there. But then you can obviously start to see some of the strengths and weaknesses throughout different teams. I think what's most interesting, the cheese fries at the very top, really blowing everyone out of the water at running back and wide receiver overall. Yeah. Oh, the other thing I must remind, it's your top 8 running backs, your top 8 receivers, your top 3 tight ends, your top 3 quarterbacks, and then just 1 defense, 1 kicker. So that comes out to basically your top 24 players on your roster. And so some teams don't have like an RB7 or an RB8 or a wide receiver 7 or wide receiver 8 or whatever position you maybe don't have. So what I do is I give you 1 point because it's just like the Jags tier, which basically just means any random free agent is like a Jag, right? So with all that, like I said, like you can kind of see which teams have stronger things. Again, here I'll kind of point to my team too in the middle there. The Lambs at tight end, as you can see, I'm towards the bottom. The only team, ironically, worse than me at tight end is the cheese fries. There's really not much there on the cheese fries at tight end. But obviously at wide receiver and running back, he's blowing it away. Quarterback, I believe he only has 2 on the roster. So his third quarterback has a low, just gets like a 1 point like number there.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'll kind of pause there. There's a lot that, so if you guys have any specific comments, questions on teams, I think this is the time to kind of talk through some of that.
Everything makes sense so far.
It does look pretty solid to me. Sean, do you have anything?
Not that's like popping out to me like right this second, but I'm sure.
I'm sure we'll. Yeah, and I think this next slide too is a pretty good indicator of kind of how these numbers stack up in terms of mix and match players, reliable contributors, quality starters, and then franchise cornerstones.
Yes. So this is just the starting players, right? So this is just the starting lineups. So I think an interesting thing here to kind of point out too is the Lionheads there at third, right? And like you see like a really nice green bar for quality starter and smaller bars for both the reliable contributor, mix and match. I mean, even smaller than Sean than you have with the long gamers. What I think that just kind of represents is like when I do like a deep dive into all these teams, whenever you start to really kind of see what's in there, the Lionheads, there's a very clear starting lineup. Like these are the starters. This is what it is. I have some questions with like wide receiver depth, and the top 4 running backs on this team are incredibly strong. But once you get past RB4, there's really nothing there. So
like Miles Sanders.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of things. But the starting lineup is so strong, and that's kind of why you saw that on the last slide. That the Lionheads were high on the starter score, but in the overall score were like similar numbers as like the Bombers and the Battle Axes, and like myself here.
What did you use? What did you use to determine like how you categorized a player into like one of those? Like, was it just? Did you go off of like any like consensus?
James, do you want me to go to that next slide where it shows like kind of the I think it was this one.
No. Here, we'll do that one next. No, here. Let me answer Sean's question first. I would pretty much like use like consensus rankings for redraft this year, but like a lot of my own flavor of how I would rank certain players, and I wanted to put a lot of players just within tiers, and I did give bias to running backs and receivers, got a little bit more favorable bias than QBs and tight ends, just because we know it's more important in this league, right? Again, it's just opportunity cost, supply and demand, all that kind of stuff. But I would try and use like some recent history, like in order for me to give a player like a badge, if you call it like within one of these tiers, like I would need to have seen it for at least like another year or previous year. But a player even like, like a Bijan Robinson or, something like that, he's quickly like ascended into a top tier, like a Jamar Gibbs as well, but like not the highest designation yet, because there's still David Montgomery is still lingering there. So while he's great for dynasty, for redraft for year one, like he's not going to have the same designation as McCaffrey, Breece Hall, and the top guys.
James, I did have a question on the Elk not having a franchise cornerstone. Is CJ Stroud not a franchise cornerstone? Do you want to see it one more year? Is that kind of the thought process?
That's yes, but now that you ask it and I think about it more, like maybe that's one I could have probably, if I had to redo it, maybe I would. But
that probably would have been my only small pushback, because you said you pushed down the quarterbacks and tight ends a little bit. I think just because it's a 6-point touchdown pass league, I think maybe they get a little more credit than that over the tight ends. But that would be my only pushback.
Yeah, that makes sense. But Eric, you're probably right on the Elk having.
I mean, it is 1 year. Like we do need to see probably
yeah.
another year too. So I get it. I mean, it's not like it'd be different if he had 2 like amazing years back to back and then not. Yeah.
But
I mean,
for example, like I think even like Justin Herbert, I took him out of my franchise cornerstone tier. Like he's just in terms of the fantasy, he's just a quality starter with like a couple of badges, if you will.
Because like we know he could be as cornerstone.
We know he could be, but like at this current juncture for this season, like he dipped down a little bit is all.
Yeah, he's like the poster child for the disconnect between real life and fantasy football currently. So
yeah,
I'm looking. So I mean, just at quality starter level, it looks like you got the Lionheads as having the most quality starters, and then probably closely followed by. I mean, it's funny. Like the Elk have a decent amount of quality starters down there. I mean, it's not like they're barren.
They really do, because obviously, and then even the other quarterback being Trevor Lawrence, I believe is in that tier. Obviously, I like James Cook, and even that the other kind of
Devonta Smith, Chris Olave.
The rookies is an interesting comment that I wanted to bring up here too. So like Marvin Harrison, I already put in the franchise cornerstone tier, because like there's like that's literally
the value's there.
The value's there to getting draft redraft. What I did is I put like so he gets a 10 for being a franchise cornerstone, but I did put a thing in there for like rookies where like you get -1 just because you're a rookie, and like I haven't seen it in the NFL. But for Harrison and Malik Neighbors and those top guys, it's a little easier. It actually was more challenging for like I would call it picks 7 through 12. Like your Brian Thomas, McConkey, even Keon Coleman, who I have now. Like those guys, I think most of them I ranked in like the reliable contributor thing, because it's like, okay, well, in a redraft sense, those guys are going to be 10th, 11th round picks, where like like in a redraft league this year, those guys would be in that range, and you would expect to start them a couple weeks during the year. So it's like at some point during the year, you're expecting those guys to provide some value. But at this, there's, you can't project a ton of value just yet.
Yeah, you can't rank them in that same category as a quality starter if you really don't know what you're going to get from them, right out the gate. Maybe in a couple of years we'll talk, but let's go to this next slide here, James. So this is how you kind of described these different teams.
Sure. Yeah. So the tier stuff that I kind of wanted to get into and talk about is like, this is something that actually I've been doing with my own team for a while. Like even like before each year, I've kind of decided, all right, do I consider myself a Final Four team and make the playoffs, or what I call like battle and improve and try and just whatever, you're just there. One thing I think is especially interesting in our league, with 6 out of 10 teams making the playoffs, like realistically, you should I feel you should always want to at least be in to make the playoffs tier, unless, like I said, with the battle improve, either by choice or circumstance. The choice would be what Dustin is doing is rebuilding. Eric, like yourself 2 years ago when your roster was barren, you weren't realistically trying to make the playoffs. But the reason I wanted to put this together is like I go all the way back to the year I traded for Lamb, and I remember being at Universal or something. I had all the time in the world, waiting for lines, and I started putting a lot of this stuff together because I'm just sitting there waiting for our, Hagrid's ride or whatever the hell we were doing. And the point being is that even that year, like I realized like what I was doing that year was not to try and win the title. Like the focus became just, I just wanted to have CeeDee Lamb on my team. Like that wasn't the goal. So I've kind of wanted to always frame things of like, all right, like, do you have a team that's expected to be in the Final Four? Do you have a team that's expected to be in the playoffs? And not every year. It kind of works out this year that I see there's a clear top four, but in some years the Final Four tier could actually be 5 teams or 6 teams. Like I feel like last year there was a clear top 4, and like I would have included Sean probably in this Final Four tier because Sean didn't have his picks. He had some good years of playing well. Like there was an expectation that hey, Sean's team's like has to try and win, and he did. But, not everything works out that way. And even with make the playoffs, not every team is going to make the playoffs. But those 5 teams in there, like it's a combination of teams that either don't have their pick or then you have me and Justin who, want to make the playoffs and could make the playoffs. So like, that's kind of where you are. But yeah.
Yeah, I like the way you laid this out here. And I do think it's true. I mean, if you look at just the landscape of the league, I think we all agree the Elk are, like you said, battle and improve. I mean, borderline rebuild. We're not expecting a ton from the Elk, so I feel like they're probably the one team that's on the outside looking in at this point, and the rest really could be, contenders. Hold on.
I think there's a legitimate conversation that there should be 2 other teams in there with the Elk.
Okay, I would love to hear it.
This is what we're here for, Sean.
The Battle Axes and the Plague
okay.
He's got a deeper team than both of them. Like
that's fair, but the starters that are on the Plague and Battle Axes still are really strong. But no, you're right. Like that's why in years past, the Plague and Battle Axes wins lines have been 2 of the highest, right? Like they've been 9, 10, like they've been the favorites the past 2-3 years. So the fact that they're as far down as they are, this is a real sort of changing of the guard year in a lot of ways.
Seeing the Battle Axes that low, Scavelli feeds on this, and this is the Battle Axes. This is bulletin board material right here. Because every year we kind of say, he's getting old, and maybe this isn't going to be. But I do think I agree, James. I feel like I agree with
just
you here.
Implore anybody to tell me who his 3rd starting receiver is for Scavelli's team this year.
No, it's a major hole. And
I think we're in the Adam Thielen tier, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the same thing could be said about the Plague. They have no RB1 and 2 are questions.
I'm just going off of like the rankings that I've done personally.
Sure.
Like he doesn't have a top 30 wide receiver on his roster to me. So
I'm trying to think who the other 2 are. That's how.
You hate Diggs even more than I do? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think Diggs is a top 30 receiver this year, and I don't think Watson's a top 30. He could be. Watson could be, but he doesn't play.
I'm not high on Diggs. I think you're crazy to say he's not a top 30 receiver. Top 20?
I saw I saw today on a random rankings I clicked on that he was like 22 or something like that. But
among receivers, that's more reasonable. Sean, I think ranking him outside the top 30 is...
Sounds like a future Dynabook line.
I can pull up where I have him because I actually think he might be outside my top 40.
Okay. Well, look, as
realistically, like, what do you think what's his stat line at the end of the year? Like, what do you think?
Well, let me pull it up.
He's got the numbers. He ran the numbers. I don't know. I feel bad for Justin. He's so far down this list. The Bombers are just, I don't know, man. It's going to be tough for him. Although that being said, it's the same line for three different teams.
Same line. Yeah.
It's just the way it looks.
They had Diggs for 75, 819, and 7 touchdowns.
Very Marvin Jones stat line right there.
Yeah. I guess it's not crazy, but he wants a contract. He needs a contract. Look, I have Tank Dell, so I'll be rooting for that particular stat line. But I think it's more likely that Tank and Diggs kind of, I guess, yeah.
Like,
Like,
could
they
you
both-
like?
they
My
both
thing
might
is
be in that
like
8
Diggs,
range.
like personality wise, like if he's not getting the targets, I feel like he could just implode that whole thing.
I didn't kill him on targets. I gave him 110,
It's a lot of target shit.
but like
Yeah.
he's got 2 other receivers that frankly are probably just better at this point in their careers than he is.
Well, Nico's definitely better. Tank, I need to see his, he broke his leg and got shot in the same offseason. So
Tank outpaced Nico when they were both playing in targets. So like,
yeah,
I just don't see like it's really unless I'm projecting CJ Stroud to throw for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, which
he might.
after his rookie year, it's something I'm like willing to be like wrong about. One of those scenarios. Yeah. So like if that happens, then I think they're all like top 30 receivers, and Nico's probably like top 10. Dell's probably like 15 in that scenario. So, but I just have a hard time seeing him getting there.
I think Tua Scabelli's team, George Kittle too, always being kind of banged up. I feel like that's kind of his elite guy outside of the the running backs on his team.
Yeah, well, but he's going to be starting other tight ends too. Like he has.
Yeah, he almost doesn't have a choice. At this point.
He has. I mean, it's funny. The Plague and Battle Axes have the 2 best groups of tight ends, but that's not where the value.
And I didn't even say anything about his quarterbacks. Like Jaden Daniels is probably going to be a good fantasy quarterback, but he's still it's tough.
Look, I toyed with putting the Battle Axes as low as 5.5 and having them like, be the last. A lot of it is semi respect to the manager that Scavelli has been, but also those 4 running backs he has are all still pretty good. But John, I agree. The bottom could fall out fastest on his teams particularly. So I expect to see a few unders come in for the Axes and the Plague. One more note just though on the Plague. And so, I also always factor in schedule, right? And by schedule, what I look at is who you play twice. Because obviously we all play each other at least once. Of the 5 games, who do you play twice? The Plague.
That's the part that I would have a hard time giving Dustin's team an edge over anybody because his schedule is actually pretty difficult.
It is. I believe when I ran the numbers and everything, the Plague and Armadillos, Eric, you guys have the easiest schedule, tied for the easiest schedule. And then the hardest schedule is the Bombers by quite a bit.
Oh no, not the Bombers again!
Because the Bombers
keep coming.
Because the Bombers have to play the top 3 teams twice. So he plays the Cheese Fries, Long Gamers, and Armadillos all twice.
I'm sorry, Justin. Sorry.
I
was looking just a minute ago here. After looking at some of these bottom tier. Well, I don't want to say bottom tier. Just like at the second half of this list. Maybe a little bit higher. There is a world where Dustin could have picks 1, 2, and 3 with the Plague, the Battle Axes, and his own, which would be pretty wild. And that would definitely vault him next year into a different tier, I would imagine.
Very, very quality running back draft coming up in 25.
Yes, I agree there. And I think there's a couple of really great receivers as well. I feel like it's going to be another strong top half of the class. Maybe not as deep as this year, but
fucking terrible quarterbacks, but really good running backs and a couple of really good receivers.
Yeah, the quarterbacks are not likely to be as strong this year. We'll put or next year as this year. That's for sure.
But I mean, Jaden Daniels or something season that comes out of nowhere.
But it would be pretty wild to see him get all 3 first. But I don't think it's ever happened. So that'd be pretty insane. Any other thoughts on this one?
Yes. I'll post all the like the specifics of the rules and the lines in a cleaner sheet eventually. But one thing that Dynabook is offering this year. So the wins lines, obviously, as you can see, it's tighter than it's ever been, and I don't have as many half point lines, right? Like most of them are kind of the hard six, whatever. So what those are also, it's minus 125 on either side. So over or under minus 125 are the odds.
What's a push?
A push is just a void. Like the house doesn't win on a push. It's just the bet just doesn't. Yeah, you just get your money back, whatever. The win lines, and then there's a couple other props we'll get to. The props that say minus 125 on both sides, and the wins lines. Those are the only ones eligible for $20 bets. Otherwise, everything else is max 10. But the thing I'm going to offer though, because these win lines are, like I said, it's a little more challenging having it not on the halves. So I will offer the first 2 people who bet 2 of those lines. So I'm talking the ones that aren't on the halves. You'll get a $5 free roll bet.
Look at that Dynabook giving out free rolls. Look at
well,
this.
we're trying to incentivize people to take more of the win lines. And again, some of the more challenging ones. So the stipulation is you have to take 2 of those lines and it has to equal $20 in bet. So basically spend 20 and you get a free $5 bet, but it has to be on the 6 lines that are not the half point ones. So that's
all right. I love it. I love any free roll.
Yeah,
here, so.
trying to spice it up a little bit.
Love Dynabook trying to get some free money out there. Everybody likes that. Let's go on to this next one. This is going to be our first prop bet. James, this is first and in the muck. And so basically who has the best season finish?
Yeah. I mean,
so we got the Plague, Muskrats, Battle Axes. So who has the and I mean shit. I mean, wait, does he have Alex's first 2? No, he doesn't. I was gonna say
somebody. I want to say it's Tibbs has Alex's first.
Ooh, crafty. So I just looked at Dustin's team. He has his own, and he has Dan's, and he has Scavelli's, and then Sean's. So he's got 3 good shots at the top half of the draft there. So
yeah, for sure.
So anywho, on this one, Sean, any thoughts on these?
Hey, based off of my last comments, I guess I'd be going with the Muskrats.
All in on the Muskrats.
No, I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
He just doesn't love it. Get that. Get those bets in.
We'll be making no bets on this.
I feel like that would be a tough one, but I feel like the teams that are involved here might throw out a bet, so that would be fun. Next one, this is a good one for you, Sean. So we have which wide receiver ends up with the higher total. It's got AJ Brown versus Drake London, and then it's AJ
Brown. It's AJ Brown giving 35 points, so it's like. So it's AJ Brown and 35 points, Drake London, and you get a 35-point handicap. Sleeper has it projected at like AJ Brown like 28 points higher than London, and I'm stunned. Drake London was like the 12th overall receiver in Sleeper for redraft. As you can see,
the hype is real.
I put it at 17 as to finish. Like I like him, but I don't know. I guess Sean's drinking the Kool-Aid. So
I mean, I have him higher than 12 in my rankings. So
wow.
Okay.
Interesting.
He's currently slotted at 10 for me.
Okay.
Do you have a stat line to present to us, Sean?
Sure.
I would like to hear it.
It's going to keep changing throughout the season.
I feel like it's that Mandalorian episode. I would like to see the baby.
I've got him for 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns.
Oh shit! Okay, that's a pretty big jump. But you know what? I think there was a quote that came out today from their mini camp or whatever that's going on today, that he said they're going to be airing it out this year and the ball will be in the air. So I was like, oh boy, it's going to be exciting.
They have 2 quarterbacks on their roster that are better than any quarterback they've had in the last 3 or 4 years. So it's going to be better. So I'm not as worried about the basement, honestly, as I have the last 3 or 4 years. And everything other than the production, because he's had terrible quarterbacks, have been great. Like, he's always open.
He's very good. I mean, even the game that I went to, Falcons Bucks last year, we were sitting pretty close to the field, so you can kind of you can get a tell of just like how somebody is based on just like how they're getting open, how fast they are, just like with the way they look. It's the eye test, right? So he passed everything. Like, he only had a couple of catches in that game, but they were huge catches. I mean, they were just unbelievable plays. I mean, he is a micro like Evans a little bit.
I don't think he's more talented than AJ Brown. I think that would be because AJ Brown's probably like fringe top 5 talented wide receiver.
He's very good.
But for me, London's 4 years younger, and I don't think he's that far off from him. The
younger thing makes sense. The only thing that I still can't understand from just how I view things, so I'd be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to ask. Like, I get the younger thing and some of the potential. Just in a year where you're defending your title, Like, why take on the risk of Drake London hoping to hit when we know AJ Brown has been, wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6, wide receiver 7. Like, that was the only part I just didn't understand. Because it's not like the other guys you got back are fine, but
I mean, I'm pretty confident that he's going to have a wide receiver 1 year. So, and I don't think that makes as big of a difference for the rest of my team. And he's younger.
Was it more of a play to kind of just get a little younger as well at that position, or is it kind of just like you just? I mean, I know, like I don't even know how old Brown is. Is he 26 or 27?
27.
Okay, so he's kind of in the heart of his prime here. But I guess you could get a couple extra years with London.
Played through a lot of injuries the last 2 seasons. Just watching as an Eagles fan, so I'm a little concerned with that too.
Do you have AJ Brown projected less than London? Is that part of why you made this, or you have him?
No,
you have him close. You have him close.
AJ Brown's my wide receiver 6 this season.
Okay.
So 6 and 10.
6 and 10. Okay. Yeah, I just
ones for me.
As you can see, I have London. Just I'll believe it when I see it a little bit more. That's all. But,
yeah, a little agnostic. That's all.
Will tell you that I have them points wise. If it was just going off of the points, if I was just going off of the points, I would take that bet, but not by much.
Okay. All right. Well, these are eligible, and so these are eligible for $20 bets if people so choose.
Okay, $20 on these bets. Our next lines. Oh, shitty tight ends. I love that one, James. I'm all about shitty tight ends.
Oh, hell yeah.
I got to pre-read these, so I already know which one I'm going to be taking in this group. So I'm excited to make my bet.
Kate Otten being the lowest odds is fucking bold.
He finished better than Conklin, and there was camp hype today on Kate Otten. I
read a tweet touchdowns last year. You think he's not going to score any touchdowns with Aaron Rodgers there?
I don't think he's that good, Sean. I don't know.
None of these guys are very good. That's not the.
Well, that's correct.
Jelani Woods is good. Okay. That's a good player. That's my guy.
I swear, I think the same day that you said that about Jelani Woods, you said Jelani Woods season. I'm pretty sure I was statting out the Colts, and I was like, I mean, but he's not
300 yards.
He's not going to get anything.
The problem is there's a lot of mouths to feed now there, so it's I don't know anymore.
They're going to be probably the run heaviest team in the NFL, and he's like the 4th or 5th target on the team. It's going to be tough.
But they have no other.
You just got to believe, Sean.
You just got to believe.
They have Granson on the team still, don't they? He sucks. He had like 30 to 40 targets. They're both going to have like 30 to 40 targets.
He's like if Trey Burton was even shittier than Trey Burton. Like he's just not good. Like he's just not a good player.
Yeah.
But you know what?
What's funny
I think Woods has all the upside, and I'm gonna chase the upside here.
Hey, dude, he's a freak of nature, man.
He's a complete freak of nature. I don't even think Dulcich is a top tight end on his team.
You know who else is a freak of nature? Tyler Conklin.
I'll take Lucas Kroll this year. Where's Lucas Kroll on this list?
What's funny is I've got Conklin at like tight end like 15, I think. But I think I have Jonnu at like 21 or 22, and I think that's the next guy. I think.
I've talked about this podcast before. I like Jonnu Smith this year. I'm a fan. I think they're going to use him.
Yeah, I mean that.
You don't have to tell me to be excited about Jonnu Smith.
I know, Sean. This is your guy.
Yeah,
this is my guy.
And the touchdowns, could obviously be there because I think we could all agree that the Dolphins need like a freaking tight end or like a possession receiver over the middle to take some of the pressure off of just Tyreek and Waddle. So
like my biggest concern with somebody like Kate Otten, who I think is a quality player. Like I don't think he's bad. It's just like where's the room for him to like grow his opportunity?
Well, he finished strong last year in the playoff game. He was one of the better players in the playoff game.
Caught that touchdown against the Falcons too to win the game.
Yeah. Yes. So he finished strong. So I think that's positive.
You're not scared of Payne Durham, James?
Payne Durham is not good.
Target-wise,
Devin Culp?
I just don't see like how he like increases his targets when the team hasn't really changed much. You still have Evans, Godwin, and
I mean,
well,
none of these guys, Sean. Tyler Conklin is not going to be second on the team in targets. As you can see at the very bottom, I put mysterious other as a taunt. to be third. So I mean, that could
little
be
Malachi Corley sneaking in there, James?
or if Alan Lazard could get more targets. Like you're talking about, oh, Rodgers healthy. I think he's going to be looking for Lazard. I don't know why he's.
I think he might get cut.
Lazard?
I think there's a chance he gets cut.
He could.
But
Aaron Rodgers runs that franchise. Today was the first day of minicamp, and he's like, "Nah, I don't feel like I have a prior engagement." So
he didn't even show up today.
Just didn't show up. So
unbelievable. If
Rodgers wants Lazard on the team, guess what? He'll still be on the team.
Is Randall Cobb still on this team?
I don't think so. No.
I mean, that's the ultimate sign of he runs the team because he has nothing left to offer. He is toast. Sean, so are you feeling like statted out wise? Is Tyler Conklin your number 2 on the targets right now for this team?
That's a good question. I do still need to look at Breece Hall some more because it's tough because he was such a beneficiary of just them not having any time to throw, having terrible quarterbacks. So
but he's also good. They're going to want to scheme up screens and Texas routes to him and stuff. So
I agree. I just think it's going to be less but more efficient.
Okay.
Him in particular, obviously Garrett Wilson's should have a much better year.
Yeah.
But
I hope Hall can stay healthy for the whole year, man. I just want to see what he can do if he just got the numbers right. He has the talent. Everybody knows he's good and he passes all the eye tests. I mean, I just would love to see it if he could just put it all together. And this is frankly his third year, I want to say. Is this Breece Hall's third year already?
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, the time is now.
He was great in redraft. I think he finished top 10 last year.
I think so too. Actually, I'm curious to look.
I also they have spent so much draft capital on running backs. Even
just unnecessarily too, by the way.
That makes me concerned that they're going to do some stupid shit and not.
Well, I think my guy Izzy is going to be cut in the summer.
I'm not feeling good about Izzy.
I think it's a Braylon. All the reporting is it's going to be Braylon Allen, and then
that guy is
the other guy they drafted.
Fucking huge. And that's it. He's just huge.
He's a large human being, that's for sure.
So, I don't think he's getting goal line work or anything, but he might get some carries that don't make any sense for him to get.
I still think Breece will get his 75% snap share or carries. I don't think
he's the guy.
It's not. I don't think it's a concern. But Eric, I need to ask you, since you're the tight end master.
Why do you think I pointed out earlier?
Tyler Conklin on Sleeper for redraft. I think they have him ranked 24th. But I just so I wasn't gonna give 24, but basically I figured, does he finish as a tight end too? And I think his past 3 years he's been 21, 18, 22, whatever. So if you had to pick a side for that bet, which would you choose, Eric?
I'm going to pick worse because I think Jeremy Ruckert's a better tight end than he is.
That's the other thing, Sean. Ruckert was starting to
actually think he's decent.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a weird one. So I mean, I just think Tyler Conklin is the most just the guy in the history of tight ends in the history of the NFL.
He is Dalton Schultz adjacent. Don't get me wrong.
I don't think no.
That's insane.
Yeah,
just can't get on board with that.
You guys think Dalton Schultz is more than just a jag? Because
I think he's
an upper end jag.
He's an upper. Well, I think
jag is a jag.
No.
The thing is, I would put Schultz in that 15 somewhere, to 10-ish, I guess, if he has a great year. I'm not putting Conklin there.
I got Conklin at 600 yards and 5 touchdowns, and that's good enough for mid tight end 2 on my rankings. So
I'm not saying it's impossible. I personally would not bet on that. I'm a Ruckert fan, so I just think there's a chance that he actually works out. So, and I have heard him being mentioned by Rodgers quite a bit this offseason, so there's always a chance. But I mean, I'm not. I would probably just bet the worst, just because that's my gut. So, and I remember when he got that. What's his contract? Because I remember it was a stupid contract. Or was that Uzomah? They got that awful contract.
That was Uzomah.
They both got terrible contracts, I think. But
Conklin's was more understated than
contract.
They signed in the same offseason, but Conklin got a little bit less.
3-year, $20 million deal for Conklin. That with this tight end market is ridiculous anyway. So it's just
I think he's a solid blocker. Again, not that I'm an expert on it, but I think Conklin gets a lot of snaps because he's trustworthy. Like he's not flashy tight end. Like Sean, to your question about Schultz, like Schultz as a receiving threat is way more dynamic than Conklin. I think Schultz sucks as a blocker, and that's why he doesn't get on the field as much, and that's why sometimes he struggles. I've seen Schultz be way more dynamic as a pass catcher than Conklin.
I've seen people run backwards and get more yak than Dalton Schultz.
Okay, man. Dalton Schultz has a top 10, season tight end. Conklin's never even come close.
So, do you have Schultz, or I'm sorry if you answered this already. Do you have Schultz or Conklin higher this year?
They're right around the same. They're right next to. They're right next to those two and Hunter Henry are just.
Oh, Hunter Henry! Here we go. We're bringing out all the tight ends.
Just for old time's sake, I should throw in Hunter Henry in this shitty tight end thing.
It's funny because like Henry at his peak was by far the best tight end of all these guys.
You don't still have Noah Fant, right?
I do not.
No.
Okay, I have Noah Fant like right next to them, right after that.
Yeah,
that's a guy I don't believe in. I don't have Noah Fant in my thought process anymore. He doesn't exist to me.
Yeah.
It's almost as bad as all those Rams random signings they had all this year. All these random tight end signings for no reason.
It's kind of a nicer year for tight ends, like in the first 10 guys this year. I will say that. Like it feels better.
It's gotten deeper, yeah. But I think a lot of those guys are still kind of unproven too, which is a tricky one. But there's definitely more overall depth as opposed to just basically Andrews, Kittle, and Kelsey, like it's been for the last 4 years. I feel like so. It'll be a good, interesting year for tight ends.
I have a good, quick little snap, this or that for this season for you guys. Eric, you might be a little biased on this one, but Kincaid or McBride this season?
I'd
take McBride personally, and I'm a Kincaid supporter. Yeah,
I like both. I
like them both. Yeah,
I would take Kincaid for this year just because.
With
the absence of
more towards Kincaid too.
But I think both. I think both are probably top 5 in a redraft ranking, right?
Yeah.
I think I've just seen McBride have that boom year, and that's where I'd lean just because I've seen it. So, but I think Kincaid showed plenty of ability last year where he now, especially without a true number one type, he could be the guy. So he could be the Kelsey.
I think he'd be getting a lot more buzz if Sam Laporta didn't have the year that he had last year.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece of it too. Guys, do you buy into Chase Claypool being wide receiver 1? I saw this today and I was like, excuse me?
Pick him up.
Pick him up.
No.
Go get him.
Nice.
I don't even know. It was Scavelli. Hey, there you go. Scavelli's wide receiver 1 right there.
I think Dynasty Twitter is all about Khalil Shakir. So
I think he got hurt today.
He's more.
I don't know. Anywho, let's go to the next one. So we got some late first wide receivers here to talk about. So we got all of the just like James said earlier, the picks I think it was 1 through 1-6 or 1-5.
Through 110 basically. That's what this is. And even because even on sleepers projected numbers, because that's what I leaned on for the most part, was I would kind of have my laptop up and scrolling through the sleeper projections on the year. These 4 guys were all super close, and they all have reasons why they could pop this year, right? We're talking about, the Bills not having a number one receiver. Well, maybe Keon Coleman's that guy in year 1 and he pops. Obviously, same thing with the Chargers with Ladd McConkey. He could actually, all 4 of these guys could be the wide receiver 1 for their team, or they could.
It's possible.
Or they could not see the field.
I think McConkey would be the one I'd bet on here if I had to bet on one. I just feel the best about that.
You can take my bet right now for Ladd McConkey.
Okay.
This is a $10 max?
$10 max for these, yeah.
Okay, just book that one for me.
Lock it in. I think you could lock in Sean's next one for this next one too. We kind of discussed this via text the other day. The Chargers' new running back who scores the most points.
For my stats, I have Gus Edwards, but him and Dobbins just don't play a lot of football.
Right. So
Dobbins won't be playing. I really think he's going to get cut. I don't think he's making this team.
Yeah,
he got $50,000 guaranteed.
Yeah,
or something.
that was an eye opener when you kind of unveiled that 2 weeks ago, or the last pod. I think you talked about that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I don't think they trust him to stay healthy, and neither do I, frankly. So it's not ideal. But I do like Vidal. I think he has legitimate chance to like lead this backfield. I mean, it's definitely not out of the cards. And I know Sean and I were discussing this a little bit the other day, and I mean, I'm not sure how many seasons or how many years has Gus Edwards actually played a full season, or like 15 games or something like that. Like I don't feel like it's been maybe like 2. Like it's he's 29 years old. I'm gonna have to look this up now. I think it's gonna have to be a mid-pod research assignment.
Wow, 3 of his 5 seasons he's played a full season.
Okay, so maybe he's less injury prone than he's seen. Well, he missed that one year. There was that one year.
It was when every
where the Ravens were playing some guy from PHU. Like it was.
Reference doesn't have 2021 under there because he didn't play at all. So he's played half of his season, 3 of his 6.
Okay,
50% shot. Yeah, I just looked at the J.K. Dobbins contract. It's a 1-year, $1.6 million deal with $50,000 signing bonus, and that's it. That was the only thing that was guaranteed. So it's not very good, but it's a tryout.
Healthy, it's a tryout, and obviously he's familiar with that offense, so I'll have a shot.
Yeah, I mean it's a good veteran guy. Like he's in that Chase Edmonds pool at this point where it's just he could make the team, but he's not really gonna be a difference maker at this point. I don't think. I mean, but there's always a chance because he had some pop. I remember watching one run of him last year where he looked like he was running in quicksand, and I was like, oh no, I don't think he's got it.
Would you guys like to just try and guess where I have Ladd McConkey ranked at wide receiver?
Oh, jeez. I mean, you're a little bit all over the place this year, so I was gonna put him at like 25 or something.
What'd you say, James?
18.
No, come on, that's super aggressive.
That's where you had Drake London put.
We have Stephon Diggs outside the top 40, so anything's possible.
Yeah, I've got McConkey at 27 right now.
Okay,
so I was close. Okay,
that's reasonable, but
I think just like in comparison to the other guys, I think I have McConkey, Thomas, Coleman, Worthy for me.
Okay,
but I'm just super low on Worthy. That's just personal bias. So
I think Worthy's got a shot, but he's definitely the hardest to project. I think out of all these guys.
I'm also at this point, I guess I'm just a Hollywood Brown truther. So
he's gonna play. Like he's gonna be on the field. Like he got a $9 million contract. He'll be out there. So I mean, and I still think depending on how long the suspension is for Rice, I still think he's gonna get plenty of run too whenever he's able to play. Let's go to Midville Muskrats running backs here. I mean, this is top priority here on this podcast. So
I know, bearing the lead. No, it's one of those things where just like I was looking for some other fun ones to look at and everything, and just looking at Alex's team, like all his running backs, like they're not bad, but none of those running backs would I feel good about being my RB1 in a redraft league, right? They're all just like. All 4 of those guys, and even I didn't even include Dameon Pierce, who could pop, but of these 4 guys, they're all like if you went 0 RB strategy in a redraft, like these are the types of running backs you would end up with. Which again, they're not terrible, but I don't know.
They're going to get carries.
They're going to get carries, and all of them have had their moments of being good, but there's reasons why they're not true bell cows, right? Like Najee Harris, we constantly are giving Jalen Warren work. DeAndre Swift, I feel like there's something like maybe his football IQ just sucks or something because no coaching staff ever trusts him. Okay, Sean's nodding his head. That's probably what that is. Ramondre Stevenson is on an awful team. I actually think Ramondre is probably the best back on this list, but he's just on the worst team situation. And then Zach Moss is.
I would still take Najee over Stevenson.
Okay.
I mean, if Zach Moss didn't have the hardest running back schedule this year, I might actually pick him just because.
I would probably still take Moss.
I saw a ranking like the PFF ranked him as the toughest running schedule this year was the Bengals.
Really?
So
that's interesting because they finished in last place in their division. So you would think they would have an easier schedule this year playing like the other last place teams. So that's interesting.
I guess it was just run defenses, but
it feels like every AFC North team just ends up like in like the top 10 of like hardest schedules or like.
Well, that's 6 games against 3 top 8
playing
defenses.
Like the best division in the tougher conference, so I think it's just going to skew a little. Which I mean, you still play it, so
that makes sense.
I did see today that there is that Ramondre Stevenson said in his press conference that there's an extension in the works too. So that kind of bodes well for the Muskrats, who kind of just need a sure thing at a running back position, in a couple of years down the road too.
It makes sense for the Patriots.
I'm not like Stevenson. I just don't see I think that's going to be a committee with him and Gibson.
I think Gibson will definitely get passing work, but I think Gibson has proven that he fumbles. He has a fumbling issue,
he sure
and
does.
he just hasn't. Aside from his rookie year as a running back, he really hasn't gotten that much work. Brian Robinson kind of surpassed him pretty easily last year.
They don't really have any depth either. I mean, it's Kevin Harris, JaMychal Hasty.
They've just been Stevenson's never been able to be the guy. I don't think he's ever dominated the backfield here. So I think the idea is Stevenson's just he's the only guy, so he's going to get all the touches. I just think it's going to be less than what people think.
Okay. Also because the Patriots are bad, so there's
going to be less plays. Yeah.
So that doesn't help.
That doesn't help.
Yeah, but, it's a tough time.
So you guys would both take Zach Moss here, though, if you on this list? Yeah,
I would unexcitedly.
Unexcitedly, okay.
Yeah, it would be a tie for me between Stevenson and Moss probably, but I'd probably still lean Moss just because he was pretty freaking good last year when he played, man. I think there's something there, and they do like to run the ball up there in Cincy, so I feel he's gonna they ran freaking Mixon into the ground regardless of how good he was. So I think they're gonna run the ball.
They need a new goal line back too, and I don't think it's going to be Chase Brown. So
I don't think so. Did they add another running back this year? The Bengals?
No, it's just those two. Moss and Brown.
And Brown feels like he had more touches than he actually did last year.
Yeah, they'd added nobody.
He didn't really touch the ball that much.
Well, they started using him more in the passing game, but their offense actually finished pretty strong late in the year because Joe Mixon had a bad first half of the year, but he was awesome the second half of the year. He was outside the top 20 running backs around midseason, and then he finished number 7, I think, or number 8, and a lot of it was because he was scoring a lot of touchdowns late in the year. Yeah. But it was Mixon.
His efficiency was way down, wasn't it?
His efficiency sucked. I could check right now. I think he averaged less.
James, did you have the most inefficient running backs last year with him and ETN? I think he had a 3.4 or 5 or something like that.
I don't give a shit about yards per carry.
Give me the ball.
Give me those points.
Give me the ball. It's funny.
Okay. So Mixon just over 4. 9 touchdowns, but just over 4 yards per carry.
Yeah. Whatever this is where Zach Moss was one of the best running backs out of shotgun last year, and the Bengals, Joe Burrow predominantly plays out of shotgun. So
interesting.
Take that.
I'll say this. I remember watching a game where it was Mixon was getting some run, and then they threw in Brown for a couple of plays, and the explosiveness factor was just it was night and day. I was like, oh my God, who is this guy? Cause even Chase Brown looked like a freaking stud. I was like, oh no, did Mixon really lose that much? But I guess we're gonna find out this year.
And Mixon keeps landing in situations where I'm not excited about Mixon the player, but his situation is really good.
Guys, because he's good. He has.
He has been a good player.
What do you want from him? He's finished as his past 3 seasons. He was RB6 the year before, RB13, and then he was RB3 3 years ago.
I mean, he's played in the league.
I think he's top 12 for me. He might be top 10.
He's had 4,000 yard seasons in 7 years, and one of those he was injured. So, I mean, he's never really been a super efficient back. I mean, if you look at these, yards per carries, his second year he was great, and then the rest were kind of just
goal line carries or
I mean, the touchdowns though. I mean, we're talking
13 in 2021.
That was yes, very very much appreciated. Between rushing and receiving, he has 29, 30, 37 touchdowns over the last 3 years. That'll work.
That's pretty nuts. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying that he just doesn't excite me as much as other backs. Fine. I mean, and that's fine.
The Texans
at the end of the day, yeah,
they traded for him and gave him an extension.
That was crazy, by the way. I was like, wow, that was. I did not see that
Stephon Diggs an
coming.
extension, but they gave Mixon one.
Because he
So,
sucks.
I mean, what?
Not a top 40 wide receiver.
it's fine with me.
And on that note, we're going to end the podcast here at just about an hour.
Yeah.
Let's see. The books are open, so post it on the Dynabook on the discussion page there for Dynabook. James will get them marked up in the system. If you have any other lines maybe that you want to see before the season, let us know.
Yeah.
I'll
probably throw some more in, like maybe around August. Like last year, like I did like week 1 lines. I think I'll do those again.
Those are fun.
But I'll just wait till, obviously we get closer to the year. So yeah.
That would be fun. Yeah, I'd be looking forward to that for sure. All right, so that's going to do it for the Dynabook reveal. James, once again, thank you very much for doing all this work, and I know that was a lot of effort, so we definitely appreciate it. And then pretty much after this, we're going to be start doing team reviews, so it's going to be that time of season where we're going to start getting into each one of these teams. I know there's still, chances for trades and movement to happen at this point, but I think most teams are relatively set for the most part. So we'll start getting those going. There'll be very in-depth looks at each one of these position groups for each team, kind of like we've done in previous years. And of course, if you have any suggestions on what kind of podcast you want to see between now and training camp timeframe, because this truly is the dead part of the year, pretty much coming up here. End of June, early July, there's really nothing going on. So let us know if you want to see anything, maybe some more name that crappy receiver. You never know. So other than that, we're going to let you all go for the night. Thanks for watching.